In this video, I'm going to show you how to modify Skyrim on Apple Silicon using Wrye Bash. The first step of this process is creating a Skyrim bottle and installing Skyrim in Crossover. Once you've started Crossover, click on the Install Windows Application box. Then you're going to select Skyrim Special Edition and then make sure to select a new bottle, specifically the Windows 7 64-bit bottle. Click Continue and Install. You will probably have to answer several prompts during the install process. Make sure to click Yes, Install, Continue, Next, or whatever else is necessary to continue the install process. After Steam is installed, you'll need to log in with your Steam ID and password in order to get access to Skyrim. Once logged in, you'll need to go ahead and install Skyrim. Unfortunately, the Crossover bottle installer does not automatically hand off the Skyrim installer to Steam properly, so once Steam starts, you will need to go into Steam, manually select Skyrim from your games list, and then click the install button. Once the Skyrim installation process is complete, you will need to manually launch Skyrim at least once before proceeding. Otherwise, Wrye Bash will not know how to find Skyrim on your drive. Here I'm going to set up some basic options for running Skyrim. If you want to further optimize it, I have several other videos on Skyrim and Fallout that describe the process of using a tool called Bethany to streamline and improve performance with that tool. Here we are simply running the game as a test. We're trying to make sure that the base game works properly before we apply downloads. As part of this process, it's going to install all of the Creation Club content that comes with the Anniversary Edition of Skyrim. Rather than start a new game of Skyrim, I'm going to go ahead and load an unmodded save. This is simply to test the configuration and make sure everything loads properly and performance is acceptable. This will also avoid Skyrim's long introduction. As we can see here, the game is running properly with the standard UI and inventory options. Right now I'm going to go ahead and unload this character since she's overloaded with gear. And once we've accomplished that, we'll try removing around a bit and making sure the game operates properly. Since everything seems to be working as it should, we're going to go ahead and proceed with modding the game. To mod Skyrim, we're going to use a tool called Wrye Bash. There are other mod managers that do work in macOS, but Wrye Bash has the fewest problems actually managing your mods. Wrye Bash can be downloaded from the Nexus Mods site. I will include a link in the description. When you download it, make sure to get the installer version, not the Python or standalone version. Here I've right-clicked on our Skyrim bottle and then selected Install Windows Application. Here I'm actually choosing the Wrye Bash installer and saying Use Installer, and then here I'm making sure I'm installing it to the correct bottle, which is Skyrim. Wrye Bash uses a standard Windows installer. You'll be clicking Next and Install a lot. This particular warning can be ignored on macOS. On the final window, uncheck View README and do check Skyrim SE. Here we can see that Wrye Bash has been installed into its own folder in Crossover. Double-clicking on Wrye Bash Skyrim SE should start the Wrye Bash program. It is unlikely you'll see this warning on macOS, but if you do, just click No. If Wrye Bash prompts you for permissions to read your drive, say OK to it, otherwise it will not be able to read the Skyrim configuration, manipulate it, or save the mod list. Here we can see a complete list of all the game files, as well as the Creation Club content downloaded with the Anniversary Edition. For the next section of this tutorial, we're interested in the Installers tab. In this part of the tutorial, I'll show you how to install your first mod. You will want to download most of your mods from Nexus Mods, and when you do, make sure to use the manual option, not the mod manager option. Here, I have already downloaded several mods directly to my external drive. Installing them is as simple as dragging and dropping them onto the Installers tab in Wrye Bash, and then copying them to Wrye Bash. For my first mod, I'm going to install the Total Character Overhaul mod. This mod improves your character's appearance significantly, but does not deviate significantly from Skyrim lore or vanilla appearance. Once the copy is complete, you'll see the mod in the Installers tab. The mod will have a small red square next to it. The first part of this process is complete, but we still need to do one more step. On the drop-down menu, under the Archive section, is an option to unpack to project. This is the part we need to execute first in order to avoid errors. Here you will see the mod name with a small diamond next to it. That indicates that it is a project. Sometimes it is possible to install the mod directly from the file, but usually it results in an error. Here I'll demonstrate one more time the process of going about copying it and then installing it from a project. Installing from the mod file sometimes works, but not often. Installing from a project works about 99% of the time. Therefore, I recommend always unpacking it to a project first. In this next section, we're going to tackle installing slightly more complicated mods. These mods are a little bit more complicated than the ones we've done so far, in that they install with a proprietary installer written by the mod author. We will still unpack the mod to a project first before installing it. But when we do go about the install process, you will see that the installer looks very different. Here, Wrye Bash is warning us that something about the mod it doesn't like. Fortunately, these can usually be ignored, so we're going to click Continue anyway. Here we can see that the mod author has given us several different options for installing his mod. Read the descriptions carefully because sometimes the mods can conflict with other mods, or even different options within the same mod can conflict with each other. This particular option is warning us that we can't use this option with the mod Realistic Waters. but we don't have that installed, so we're going to check it off anyway and use this as a replacement for realistic water. This scary looking window is just some diagnostic output from Wrye Bash. Just click install when you see it. Now we're going to install one more complicated mod just to make sure you're familiar with the process. Now that the mod is copied, we're going to unpack it to a project like we've done all the other mods. Under Windows, Wrye Bash does not usually have this problem installing directly from the mod, but in Mac OS, apparently has some problem dealing with the archive files, so it's best to usually just unpack it to a project first and then install the mod that way. You'll notice that once the mod is installed, the little diamond next to it will turn green. That means that it's been successfully installed and there are no conflicts that might cause problems with that particular mod. Once again, we can see that the mod author has provided us with several different options for installing the mod. To keep things simple, we're just going to select everything and continue. One of the most frequently used and popular mods is Sky UI. This mod completely changes the inventory menu, as well as several other menus in the game. It also requires another mod called the Skyrim script extender. Here we are on the Nexus mod page that shows Sky UI. We're going to go ahead and download it with the manual option. Here, manual download. And then once it's downloaded, we'll go ahead and install it. However, on the mod download page, you'll notice that it says it requires SKSE64. So we're going to go ahead and click on that and download that as well. Here we're making sure to select the Anniversary Edition, which is the most current and up-to-date version of Skyrim. Since Sky UI requires SKSE64, we're going to install that part first. We're going to unpack the archive and then install it directly into our Skyrim folder. The easiest way to get to the Skyrim folder is to right-click on your bottle and then select Open C Drive. And then we're going to drill down through the folders until we find Program Files x86, then Steam Apps, then Common, then Skyrim Special Edition. Installing SKSE64 is tricky, so it's best to pay close attention here. Otherwise, you could mess up your Skyrim install. Once your archive is unpacked, we're going to copy these files into the Skyrim program directory. When you try to copy the files into here, you'll get this warning message. Make sure you click Skip and not either of the other options. This will copy the necessary files into the root Skyrim folder, but not destroy your data directory. The second stage of this copying process is to copy the data folder from the SKSE64 archive into the Skyrim data folder. You will see here that I'm manually copying all these scripts from the scripts folder into the scripts folder in the Skyrim program directory. In the second phase of this copying process, we do want to click on Replace when that option comes up. Now that the installation of SKSE64 is complete, we can go ahead and install Sky UI. Installing Sky UI itself is as simple as installing the other mods that we've installed so far, and not nearly as complicated as SKSE64. You'll simply drag the mod from your Downloads folder into the Installers tab in Wrye Bash, copy it, unpack the project, and then install the project. Now that that's complete, there are just a couple more steps before we can enjoy playing Skyrim. Even though our mods are now installed, they are not enabled. And in this next part, I will show you how to enable the mods and run Skyrim. Once again, we can see here a list of all the Creation Club content as well as the game's base files. However, you'll notice that the mods that we've installed are not activated. Activating them is as simple as putting a check in the green box next to them. You'll notice that Wrye Bash provides a fake mod called bashed patch. You will want to make sure to move this bashed patch to the very bottom of your load order. You can accomplish this by right-clicking on it and then selecting Move To and then putting in 99, and this will move it to the very bottom of the mod list. If you notice any mods in this list with a red square next to them, that means that there's a conflict with your mod. Typically, this can be fixed by changing the load order of your mods. Sometimes, however, you'll have no choice but to remove a mod if it conflicts too much with another mod. Resolving mod conflicts is beyond the scope of this video, and I may cover it in another tutorial if there's sufficient interest. Now that I've installed all these mods, I'm going to go ahead and try to start the game and see if I can run Skyrim with all these mods loaded. To start the game, I actually click the small yellow dragon icon in the very lower left-hand corner of Wrye Bash, next to the red box. When I try to start Skyrim, you'll see that I got this warning box, and it is telling me that one of my plugins is out of date. While it does not tell me exactly which mod installed the file, it does give me the file name, which gives me a clue that I can use to go back through the mods and figure out which one's causing the problem. Here we can see it's a file called chargen. If we go over to the Installers tab and click on the individual mods, we can see which files each mod installs. Here on the General tab of the Race Menu mod, we can see a chargen file that's causing the problem. It appears that the download that I used to install this file is too old, so I'm going to have to go to Nexus Mod and get a newer version. Here I've uninstalled the mod, and then I'm going to go ahead and completely delete it to keep it from causing problems. And now I'm going to go to Nexus Mods and find a current version of Race Menu. There are currently 3 versions of Skyrim in circulation. The oldest version is Legendary Edition, which is the very first release of Skyrim. The most recent incarnation is Skyrim Anniversary Edition. So I'm going here to Nexus Mods and finding the Anniversary Edition of Race Menu. Once again, do not click on the Mod Manager download button, but rather click on the Manual button. This will download the mod into your Downloads folder. And once again, installing it is as simple as copying it to the Installers tab in Wrye Bash. After copying the file, we are then going to unpack it to a project as we've done every other mod so far. Once we've unloaded the mod to a project, then we can install the project. If you see a warning like this one, it is generally safe to use when using with SKSE mods. Now we're going to try to start the game, but you'll notice that I've forgotten something in a moment. I still need to go ahead and enable the mod on the Mods tab. In this case, the mod actually consists of 2 separate plugins, and both will need to be enabled in order to activate the mod. You'll see I just tried to start it here, and then I just realized my mistake. Fortunately, all that's necessary is to quit the game and exit, and then enable each of the plugins. Once again, you want to make sure this bashed patch is at the very end of your load order. You'll need to right-click on it, select Move To, and then enter 99 to move it down to the very bottom of the list. And now we are truly ready to run the game. Once we've gotten this far, starting the game is as simple as clicking on the golden dragon icon in the very lower left-hand corner of the Wrye Bash program, next to the small red box. Once our save game is loaded, I'll show you how to tell if mods are actually loaded and installed. First of all, you'll see this warning pop up. That means that mods have been enabled for the first time on your save game. For the first few seconds or minutes after you load a save game, you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner several status messages. These are indicating that various mods are loading and initializing. As you can see here, the inventory looks very different and is much easier to use on a PC. The original Skyrim inventory system was designed for consoles, and it shows. Here you can see this is a more mouse and keyboard friendly menu. Here I'm actually demonstrating one of the mods called Race Menu. In order to initialize it, you need to hit the console button, which is generally the back tick key, directly under the escape key. You then type in Show Race Menu, and this menu pops up. You'll notice that I'm clicking in vain here trying to change the options. That's because I need to click the console button one more time to get rid of the console itself. Once I hit the back tick key, then I can go ahead and change things as I want to. Race Menu is a very powerful mod that allows you to change many aspects of your character's appearance. Here I'm changing this character's skin tone and hair. And now that all our mods are installed and activated, we can go ahead and play Skyrim and enjoy a fully modded experience in the game.